Hello, and welcome to another lesson from Level Up Mathematics. And today we will be looking at dividing whole numbers. Now, this is going to be a review from previous courses. So let's start by talking about the parts and labels for a division problem. So the division problems below can be represented by the long division problem shown at right. So we have 75 divided by 4 written several ways. We can use 75, then the division symbol, and then 4, or we can write it as a fraction, 75 over 4, or we can write it as a long division problem. Now, in the long division problem, the number that's being divided into parts is called your dividend. So here we're taking 75 and we want to divide it into 4 equal parts. So the 4 is called your divisor. It's what you're dividing by. Now, the answer to your division problem is your quotient. And then sometimes when we're dividing, we have a remainder. Again, I know all of this is a review, but it doesn't hurt to refresh our mind with the parts of the division problem. Now, in example 1, it says, use your previous knowledge of division to solve the problems below. The grids can help you organize your work. So in problem A, they want us to take 4,104 and divide it into 12 parts. So if I'm going to divide 4,104 by 12, 12 is my divisor, and it would go outside the division symbol. My dividend, 4,104, goes on the inside. All right, now when you start your division problem, you'll first ask yourself, will 12 go into 4? It will not. So then the next thing we ask ourselves is 12 go into 41? And it will. So we want to figure out how many times. Now I'm going to use a ratio table down here at the bottom to kind of organize the factors, or excuse me, the multiples of 12. So I know that 1 times 12 is 12. If I doubled 12, I would get 24. If I doubled it again, 2 doubled is 4, 24 doubled is 48. So 48 is too many. So I know this will go in now 3 times, all right? And let me go ahead and put here, I can get 3 by taking the 1 and the 2 will give me 3. And then the 12 plus 24 will give me 36. So now I'm going to start the steps of division. I'm going to, 12 goes into 41 3 times. Now I'll multiply. 3 times 12 is 36. Now we'll subtract. 41 minus 36 is 5. And then bring down. So I bring down this 0. Now I want to know how many times will 12 go into 50? Well, looking at my ratio chart down here, I know that 4 times would give me 48, and that's very close to 50. So I'm going to put a 4 here. And 4, now I'll start the multiply process. 12 times 4 is 48. Subtract. 50 minus 48 is 2. And then bring down 4. And I know from my chart here that 12 will go into 24 2 times. So this is a 2. Now multiply. 2 times 12 is 24, and subtract, and that gives me a remainder of 0. So 4,104 divided by 12 gives me 342. All right, in our next problem, we have 3,672 divided by 18. So 18 is my divisor. That goes on the outside. And 3,672 is my dividend, so it goes inside. Now, I'm going to set up a ratio table here and just get some multiples of, what did I write down? 2. This was supposed to be 18. We're wanting the multiples of 18. So 1 times 18 is 18. If I doubled that, 18, if I double 18, I get 36. If I double it again, I get 72. So there's some factors of 18. All right, now let's start our process here. 18 will not go into 3. So now I look at, will 18 go into 36? And according to my ratio table here, it will go in 2 times. So I'll put a 2 here. Now multiply. 2 times 18 is 36. Subtract. So 36 minus 36 is 0. So I'm going to bring down the 7. Now, well, 18 goes into 7 0 times. So 0 times 18 is 0. Now subtract. 7 minus 0 is 7. And bring down. All right, so now we want to know how many times will 18 go into 72? Well, looking at my ratio table, we already found out that it would go in 4 times. So this is a 4. Now 4 times 18 is 72. Subtract, and I get a remainder of 0. So 3,672 divided by 18 is 204. All right, pause the video and try problem C on your own. All right, welcome back. All right. In this problem, 8 was my divisor. 5,224 was my dividend. Now, I made a ratio table down here for 8. 1 times 8 is 8. If I double that, I get 16. Double it again, 32. Double it again, 64. I don't know if I need more. I'll use those as a starting point, all right? So now I'm going to look at my division problem. 8 will not go into 5, but 8 will go into 52. Now, I know it'll go in at least 4 times because 4 times 8 is 32 according to my chart. So will it go in 5 times? So 5 times 8 is 40. What about 6 times? Well, 6 times 8 is 48, and that's very close to 2. So I'm going to start with a 6. All right, now let's multiply. 6 times 8 is 48. Subtract. 52 minus 48 gives me 4. And bring down. All right, well, 8 go into 42. Well, let's look at my chart here. Well, 5 times will give me 40, and that's very close to 42. So I'll use a 5 there. 5 times 8 is 40. Subtract and bring down. And 8 goes into 24 3 times. So 5,224 divided by 8 gives me 653. All right. Example 2. A library has 16 shelves of fiction books. If there are 4,544 fiction books, how many books are in each shelf? So what they're wanting me to do here is to take my 4,544 and divide it into 16 equal shelves. So the division problem we're trying to solve is 4,544 divided by 16. So I'll set this up as a long division problem. And I'm going to make me a little ratio table to help me with the multiples of 16. So 1 times 16, if I double that, I get 32. If I double that, I get 64. We'll see if we need any more here in a minute. All right, so I'm going to start by seeing 16 will not go into 4, but 16 will go into 45. So I know it'll go in 2 times, and that gives me 32. I wonder if it would go in 3 times. So if I use this 1 and the 2 to get 3, then I could use the 16 plus 32, and that would give me 48. So 48 is actually too big. So I'm going to say that 16 will go into 45 only 2 times. All right. Let me move this ratio table off to the side here. All right, so now I'm going to start my process of multiplying, subtract, and bring down. So 2 times 16 gives me 32. Subtract. 5 minus 2 is 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. And bring down 134. All right, so I need to make my ratio table a little bit bigger here. And I need to go up to 134. So I'm going to take this 4 and double it. That would give me 8. And then I'm going to take my 64 and double that. And that would give me 128. And that's very close to 134. So I'm going to put it 8 right here. So 16 times 8 was 128. All right, let's subtract. That would give me 6. And then bring down the 4. Now, I believe 64 was in my ratio table. Yep, 4 times. So this would be a 4. 4 times 16 is 64. Subtract, and that gives me a remainder of 0. So there are 284 books on each shelf. All right, example 3. In preparation for open house, the campus secretary copied handouts in sets of 25. If she made 1,675 copies, then how many sets did she copy? So the librarian has a total of 1,675 copies, and she wants to divide them into 25 equal sets. So 25 is your divisor, and your dividend is 1,675. All right, again, to help me with my multiples of 25, I'm going to make a little ratio table here. 1 and 25, if I double that, I get 50. If I double that again, I get 100. If I double that again, I get 200. All right, we'll see if those help me here in a minute. All right, let's move that off to the side, maybe like that. All right, so we know 25 will not go into 1, 25 will not go into 16, but 25 will go into 167, and it'll go in somewhere between 4 and 8 times. So I'm going to try 6, because 6 is halfway between 4 and 8. So what's halfway between 100 and 200? Well, 150. So 6 will give me something very close to 167. So 6 times 25 is 150. Subtract, that's 7. 6 minus 5 is 1. Bring down the 5. So now we need 175. So it's going to be smaller. If I'm looking at my ratio table, 8 times gives me 200. So I know it's something smaller than 8. So let's try 7. So to get 7, I'm going to use the 1 and the 6, because 1 plus 6 is 7, which means I need to add the 25 and the 150. Oh, and what do you know? 175. So this is a 7. 7 times 25 is 175. Subtract. That gives me a remainder of 0. So she copied 67 sets. And that concludes today's lesson, review of dividing whole numbers.